Have you ever felt the air around you shift, like the universe was warning you that something was about to snap? Have you ever been so sure you buried a part of your past, only to have it claw its way back on the one night you swore would be peaceful? And here's the real question. What would you do if Christmas Eve brought you the one person you never wanted to see again? My name is Mara Keller, I'm 28, and I work as a hospital ultrasound tech in Columbus, Ohio. And this is the night everything finally boiled over. But hold on, before we get into the real stuff, I want to know, what are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? I love seeing your answers down below in the comments. Okay, deep breath. Because the way this night unfolded still hits me straight in the chest. Christmas Eve is supposed to smell like cinnamon candles, not anxiety. But around 9:14 p.m., while snow tapped against my apartment window like nervous fingers, my phone buzzed with a message that stopped my heartbeat for a second. A message from my mother. We're downstairs. We need to talk. It can't wait. 4 words that made the room tilt. I hadn't seen my parents in 11 years. They'd made their choice when I was 17. They'd made it loudly, loud enough that I still hear it sometimes when I'm lying awake at night. But tonight, Christmas Eve, they just showed up. I walked to the window and peeked between the blinds. And there they were. My mom's stiff beige coat, my dad's old Christmas tie he only wore when he wanted to look respectable. Both standing uninvited under the entrance light, their breath fogging in the cold, their bodies pressed close like they were bracing for a war. A part of me, some pathetic little spark, wished they'd come to apologize, to say they regretted what they did, to explain why I was the child they abandoned while my little sister got everything. The tuition, the attention, the affection, the care that was supposed to be shared. But deep down, I already knew the truth. People like my parents don't come back unless they want something. And that's when the suspense really kicked in. Because as I watched them from the 5th floor window, I noticed something that made my stomach sink. My mother wasn't alone. She was holding a binder. A thick one. And even from 5 floors up, I recognized the telltale glossy shine of a proposal packet. Whatever tonight was, it wasn't an apology tour. I opened the lobby app on my phone. The tiny screen lit up with their faces staring directly into the camera, as if they knew I was watching. My dad leaned toward the intercom and pressed the button again. Ding. The sound echoed through my apartment like a warning bell. I should have ignored it. I should have closed the blinds and pretended I wasn't home. But curiosity is a stupid, stubborn thing. And a small part of me wanted to hear their reason, if only so I'd never have to wonder again. So I buzzed them in. The elevator ride to my floor must have been quick, because within seconds, the hallway filled with the faint squeak of my mother's boots. Then, 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I opened the door only halfway. My mom's eyes scanned my apartment like she was taking inventory. My dad looked me up and down like I was an employee who'd disappointed him. Wow, my mom said softly. Her tone dipped in something between envy and entitlement. You've done well for yourself. She stepped forward without waiting for an invitation. My dad followed, closing the door behind him as if he lived here. Then my mother placed the thick binder on my coffee table and slid it toward me with 2 fingers. And the second I saw the title on the front page, my throat dried. Emergency Christmas Funding Request. Lila's Life-Saving Surgery. My sister. The girl they chose over me so many times I stopped counting. My mom smoothed the edges of the binder, then looked up with glassy eyes that didn't match the sharp calculation behind them. Mara, we need $42,500 by tomorrow morning. She swallowed. And you're the only one who can save her. For a second, I swear I couldn't hear anything. Not the heater humming, not the snow tapping the window, not even my own heartbeat. Just nothing. Like my brain muted the world so I wouldn't explode. Because out of all the things I thought they came for, a donation, A guilt trip. Some dramatic holiday reconciliation. But this, my sister's surgery, on Christmas Eve, with me as the only solution. My mom clasped her hands like she was performing grief instead of feeling it. Mara, honey, before you say anything, you should know, we tried everything. We're completely tapped out. My dad took a step forward, shoulders squared like he was preparing a negotiation. Your sister doesn't have time. This surgery, it has to happen immediately. And we know you have the savings. That line, we know you have the savings, hit like ice water poured down my spine. There it was. The truth behind the knitted sympathy and trembling voices. They weren't here for reconciliation. They were here because they believed my bank account was a family emergency fund they'd forgotten to claim. I sat on the arm of my couch, arms crossed, eyebrows lifting higher than I intended. And how exactly do you know anything about my savings? My father waved a hand in the air. Your posts, your job, the bonuses. People talk, Mara. Word gets around. People talk. Translation. We stalked whatever crumbs of your life we could find, and when we thought we could squeeze money out of you, we drove 2 hours in the snow. I opened the binder, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to see the angle. The packet was thick. Medical terms, cost breakdowns, highlighted deadlines, all real. All terrifying. Then the twist of the knife. A photo of Lila smiling on a soccer field, her arm wrapped in my mother's. My father had his hand on her shoulder with that proud dad face I never once saw directed at me. Look, my mom whispered, her voice cracking in the exact way it used to when she was about to shame me for something I didn't do. She's still our baby. And she needs her big sister right now. Big sister. Funny how I only became that when their money ran dry. I stood slow, feeling a steadiness I didn't expect. Tell me something. When I needed emergency medical treatment at 17, when my asthma was so bad I couldn't climb stairs, where was this urgency? Where was this binder of documents and highlighted deadlines? My dad stiffened. That was different. It always is, I said. My voice didn't shake. Theirs did. My mom attempted a soft sob. Mara, please. We don't have anyone else. I almost laughed. You had me once, and you threw me away like trash. My dad stepped closer, jaw tightening. Enough. This isn't the time to dredge up old resentments. Your sister could die. I could have died too, I said. Quiet, but sharp. The words cut straight through the room. Silence. My father blinked. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. They didn't expect that version of me. The one who remembered. The one who didn't need their approval anymore. The one who wasn't sick, scared, and begging for scraps of affection. I walked to the window, watching snow fall in thick, soft flakes under the street lamp. My hands trembled, not from fear this time, but from something colder, heavier. Clarity. I turned back to them. If you came here thinking Christmas Eve would soften me, if you thought this night would erase everything, you came to the wrong apartment. My mother choked. So you're really going to let her? No, I snapped. I'm not letting anything happen. I'm refusing to be manipulated. There's a difference. My dad's voice dropped. If you walk away from this, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Funny. He once said the same thing to me when I refused to co-sign a loan for Lila's travel team. I moved to the door, opened it wide, and stepped aside. You should go. My mom stared at me like she had never seen me in her life. My dad looked like he wanted to argue, but even he knew he'd lost the negotiation. They gathered their things slowly, as if delaying would change my mind. Just as they reached the hallway, my mom turned back. Her voice was small. Dangerous. We won't stop asking, Mara. Not until you do the right thing. I closed the door without answering. Locked it. Then I leaned my head against the wood, letting the cold reality settle into my bones. Because deep down, even with all my anger, all my boundaries, some part of me knew this wasn't over. Not even close. And Christmas Eve had one more twist waiting for me, one I never saw coming. I didn't move for a long time after the door clicked shut. Just stood there, forehead pressed against the wood, listening to my pulse thump in my ears like someone knocking from the inside. It was Christmas Eve. I should have been watching old movies, eating peppermint bark, maybe pretending I wasn't spending the holiday alone. Not this. I finally pushed myself off the door and walked to the kitchen, hands shaking as I filled a glass with water. My reflection in the microwave window looked like someone who'd just been hit by a truck. Wide eyes, tense jaw, shoulders locked in fight or flight. Why now? Why tonight? Why did it feel like my past had been waiting for the exact moment I relaxed before slamming the cage shut again? I took one sip of water. Didn't help. So I paced. Back and forth across my little apartment, past my tiny tree still glowing in soft gold lights, past the presents I'd wrapped for my coworkers' secret Santa exchange. Then my phone buzzed. A text. From a number I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was one of those automated holiday messages. But when I tapped the screen, my stomach flipped. Unknown, Mara? It's me. Please don't ignore this. Lila. My sister. The girl I hadn't spoken to since I was 19. The same sister who watched my parents throw me aside like a scratched-off lottery ticket and never once asked them to stop. I stared at her name until it blurred, then typed. Me, what do you want? Her reply came fast. Like she'd been sitting with her thumbs ready. Lila, they told me they went to see you. I didn't ask them to. I swear. Right. Sure. I dropped onto the couch and sank into the cushions, trying not to let old wounds reopen. But the thing about old wounds, they know the way back. Before I could respond, another message popped through. Lila, I just wanted you to know. I didn't ask them to come begging. I know how they treated you. I remember. More than you think. My chest tightened. I didn't want this conversation. Not tonight. Not when their footsteps were still echoing in my hallway. Me, then why let them drag me into it? 3 blinking dots appeared. Disappeared. Returned. Lila, because I'm scared. And because I don't want to die. And those 5 words, hit harder than anything my parents could have thrown at me. Because I remembered being sick. I remembered gasping for air in the middle of the night, feeling like the room was shrinking around me. I remembered begging my parents not to leave me home alone when my breathing was shallow. And I remembered exactly how it felt when they told me I was old enough to handle it. A hot sting filled my eyes. Damn it! I wiped them fast, like tears were embarrassing even though no one was watching. Me, Lila, what exactly is going on? The truth. Not their version. It took her a minute before she answered. Lila, it's my lungs. I was born with a defect. It's gotten worse this year. The surgery is real. The deadline is real. And the money, yeah, that part's real too. I closed my eyes. A slow exhale shook out of me. She wasn't lying. I knew that tone. That quiet fear. That acceptance mixed with panic. But then she sent one more message that made something in me crack open and spill straight through the floor. Lila, I know they ruined things between us. I know they made you the villain in every story they told. But I never hated you. I just didn't know how to fight them. My throat closed. Because for the first time in her life, my sister sounded like a person. Not the golden child, not the favorite, not the girl whose life was built from the pieces they stole from mine. Just a scared kid telling the truth. Before I could reply, 3 more messages rolled in rapid fire. Lila, I didn't ask for this. Lila, I don't expect you to fix it. Lila, I'm just really scared, Mara. The phone felt heavy in my hand. My thoughts raced in a dozen directions, none of them landing anywhere safe. Because the truth was, I wasn't heartless. I wasn't cold. I wasn't the monster my parents painted me to be. But helping her meant stepping back into a fire I barely crawled out of the first time. And I didn't know if I was strong enough to survive the burn twice. I typed a response, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Outside, snow kept falling. Slow, quiet, relentless. And in that heavy silence, my phone buzzed again. One final message. Lila, there's something else you need to know. Something they didn't tell you. Call me when you're alone. The hairs on my arms rose. Something else? What could possibly be worse than everything already on the table? I didn't know, but deep down I felt it. Whatever she was about to tell me would change everything. I stared at my phone like it had turned radioactive. There's something else you need to know. That sentence just sat there, pulsing in my brain, tightening every muscle in my neck. Whatever Lila meant, it wasn't small. And the way she phrased it, like she was afraid to even type it? Yeah. My night was far from over. I walked to the balcony door, slid it open a crack, and let the cold air bite my cheeks. Snow flurries drifted in, dissolving on my skin. I needed the cold. I needed the grounding. I needed something that wasn't fear or anger or whatever blend of both was rattling inside my ribs. Then, with a shaky breath, I hit call. 1 ring. 2. She answered on the third with a whisper. Mara. Her voice. God, I barely recognized it. Softer. Older. Tired in a way number 20-year-old should sound. I'm alone, I said. Just tell me. Silence spread across the line. Thick, fragile, heavy. I could hear her breathing, slow and uneven, like she was rehearsing her next words. Finally, she spoke. They didn't tell you why the surgery is so expensive, did they? My stomach dropped. I saw the numbers. But not the reason. No. She inhaled sharply. It's because it's not just a lung procedure. It's a transplant. I froze. A transplant. A full transplant. She kept talking, her voice cracking on the edges. I've been on the waiting list since July. They finally found a match. Perfect match. But we only have a small window to get everything done before, she trailed off. Before they move on to someone else. I pressed my palm to my forehead, squeezing my eyes shut. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have picked up? She whispered. It wasn't meant to hurt, but it landed exactly where my guilt lived anyway. Before I could answer, she added, Mom didn't want to involve you until the last minute. She said it would give you less time to say no. Of course she did. Classic manipulation. Trap me with urgency, guilt, and a holiday bow on top. I walked back to the couch and sank down. Lila, are you okay? Like right this second. Another pause. Then, no. The honesty in that one syllable punched a hole straight through me. My chest feels tight all the time, she said quietly. They don't say it to my face, but I can see it in their eyes. They're scared. They're angry. They're blaming everyone and everything. And I'm stuck in the middle trying not to die. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear hit my wrist. She continued, voice softer, more fragile. I know they weren't good parents to you. I know they pushed you out. I know they made everything about me. I know you don't owe us anything, especially not this. I swallowed hard. Then why call me? Because her breath hitched. Because I'm not them. And because I'm terrified. Something inside me splintered. I leaned forward, elbows digging into my knees. "I need to ask you something," she whispered. I braced myself. "What?" "Can we just talk? Not about money. Not about surgery. Not about them. Just us." A trembling breath. "I don't want my last memories of you to be the ones they fed me." My throat closed up around a lump I couldn't swallow. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just the quiet sound of her breathing and the soft hum of my heater filling the space between us. Finally, I whispered, "Okay, talk." But she didn't. Not right away. Because something in the background shifted, like movement. A door. Footsteps. Then her voice dropped to a hollow whisper that sent a chill through every nerve in my body. "They're listening." My whole body snapped upright. "Who?" Before she could answer, a deeper voice, my father's, muffled but unmistakable, cut through the line. "Lila, who are you talking to?" Her breath caught. "Mara," she whispered, panicked now. "Please don't hang up. Please don't leave me alone with." The line cut. Just dead silence. No beep. No disconnect tone. Just gone. I stared at my phone, heart hammering against my ribs so hard I felt it in my teeth. What the hell was happening over there? And deep in my chest, a sickening realization started forming. A possibility I didn't want to say out loud. Because it wasn't just fear I heard in her voice. It was something worse. It sounded like someone wasn't telling the whole truth, and someone in that house did not want her speaking to me. For a long, suffocating moment, I just sat there frozen, staring at my phone like it had betrayed me. My fingers hovered over the screen, shaking, waiting, hoping the call would reconnect. It didn't. Just silence. Heavy. Thick. Wrong. I tried calling back. Once. Twice. 3 times. Straight to voicemail. Not even a ring. Not even a chance. My stomach twisted so hard I doubled forward, elbows on my knees, breath stuttering out of me in rushed, uneven bursts. This wasn't normal. This wasn't Dad walked in and she hung up. This felt like someone deliberately snatched the phone out of her hands. I wiped my face with my sleeve, not even realizing when I started crying. What is happening in that house? I whispered to the empty room. For a moment, the only answer was the soft hum of my heater. Then my phone buzzed again, this time with a notification. Call failed. No shit. I stood up so fast the blanket on my lap slid to the floor. I paced across the living room, the twinkling Christmas lights suddenly feeling sinister instead of warm. My thoughts were racing so fast they overlapped, colliding in a mess I couldn't untangle. She said someone was listening. She sounded scared, real fear, not please pay my bills fear. And the way the call ended. God. I grabbed my keys without thinking. Halfway to the door, I stopped. What was I doing? Driving 2 hours to my parents' house in the middle of a snowstorm on Christmas Eve? Barging in like some off-brand detective because I heard one panicked whisper? But then her voice replayed in my head. "Please don't leave me alone with." And the line going dead. I pressed my hand to my chest, grounding myself. I wasn't imagining that fear. It was real. It was raw. And I hadn't heard her sound like that since we were little, before the favoritism, before the distance, before they turned me into the invisible daughter. I lifted my phone again, not to call, but to text. "Me, are you safe? Where are you?" Reply with anything. An emoji. Anything. Delivered. No response. I swallowed hard. Okay. Think. If I drove there and got caught in whatever chaos was happening, I'd have no backup. No plan. Nothing but adrenaline and unresolved trauma. And trauma makes you stupid. Dangerously stupid. So I forced myself to sit. To breathe. To think. I replayed the entire night in my mind, step by step, like rewinding a movie frame by frame. My parents showing up. The forced sympathy. The binder. The manipulation. Her calling me. Her telling me she was scared. Her admitting they didn't want her talking to me. Her father's voice. The abrupt end. And then it hit me. They weren't just hiding money issues. They were hiding something about her condition. Something big. Big enough that they couldn't risk her talking to me about it. A chill crawled across my skin. I picked up her medical binder again and flipped through it. Not the way my parents wanted me to, skimming for dollar signs, but really reading it. Looking for what wasn't there. Because Lila said, transplant. But the packet said, reconstruction. Not the same thing. At all. I turned page after page. Financial estimates, vague summaries, pre-op requirements. But nowhere, not once, did the word transplant appear. Not even hinted at. Which meant one of two things. Either Lila lied, or my parents did. And given their track record, I knew exactly which one was more likely. My throat tightened. If they were hiding the actual severity of her condition, what else were they hiding? I clicked the TV on, more for background noise than anything else. A news anchor's voice murmured through the room, but I wasn't listening. I was staring at my silent phone, praying for a message that wasn't coming. And then, a soft knock at my door. Not loud. Not urgent. 3 gentle taps. My entire body stiffened. It was almost midnight. Snow was piling high outside. My parents had already left. So who the hell was at my door? The knock came again. This time, softer. 3 taps, perfectly spaced. Like someone was trying not to be heard. I stepped toward the peephole, heart thundering in my ears. But before I reached it, a familiar voice whispered through the door. Mara, it's me. Please open up. My blood turned to ice. Because the voice wasn't my mother. Wasn't my father. Wasn't a neighbor. It was my sister. But it wasn't calm. Or hopeful. Or even afraid. It was shaking. Breathless. And underneath it, something else. A tremor I'd never heard from her in my entire life. Desperation. Please, she whispered. I didn't know where else to go. For a few seconds, I couldn't even move. It was like my brain and my legs were having 2 completely different conversations. One screaming open the door, the other yelling this makes no sense. How was she here? How did she get out of the house? Why did she come to me? I forced myself forward, each step feeling like walking through sludge. I pressed my eye to the peephole. And there she was. Lila. Hunched. Shaking. Snow dusting her hair like powdered sugar. Her sweatshirt pulled tight around her thin frame, her breath fogging the hallway light. Not the polished girl from the soccer photos. Not the confident golden child in all the family Christmas cards. She looked fragile, breakable, like she'd run through hell barefoot. I cracked the door an inch. Lila! She lifted her head and her eyes. God, her eyes were swollen and red. Can I come in? Please. I didn't hesitate. I pulled the door open, and she stumbled past me, hugging her arms around herself as if she was freezing from the inside out. The second the door clicked shut, she burst into sobs. Not delicate, movie-style tears. Full body shaking, choking sobs that sounded like something was tearing open inside her. I grabbed a blanket off the couch and wrapped it around her shoulders. Lila. Hey. You're okay. You're safe. Just breathe. Tell me what happened. But she couldn't speak yet. Her breaths were sharp, fast, uneven, like she'd sprinted the whole way here. I guided her to the couch and sat beside her. She curled into me the way she did when she was little, and our parents screamed at each other downstairs. My hand moved on instinct, rubbing slow circles on her back like I used to before everything changed. After a minute, her breathing steadied, though her hands were still trembling badly. Mara, her voice cracked. I didn't know where else to go. My heart pulled tight. Start from the beginning. What happened after the call cut out? She swallowed hard. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to me, as if she was afraid someone had followed her. Dad grabbed the phone. My stomach dropped. He took it from you? She nodded. He was listening the whole time. He heard me tell you about the transplant. I clenched my jaw. So the binder was a lie. It wasn't even mine. She wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. They used an old packet from last year. The reconstruction estimate. They didn't want you to know how serious it was. Why hide that? I asked, even though I already had a sinking feeling I knew. She looked up at me with eyes so full of shame it made my chest ache. Because they didn't want you to think they were desperate until you already agreed to pay. Of course. Of course. It was never about helping her. It was about controlling me. But the fear in her face, that wasn't theirs. That was hers. What happened after he grabbed the phone? I asked quietly. She hesitated, fingers twisting the blanket in tight knots. He lost it, she whispered. Started yelling about how I ruined everything. How he told Mom it was a mistake letting me call you. How I was ungrateful and emotional and making things harder. I felt something hot and violent flash inside me. The same rage I felt at 17. The same rage I swallowed to survive. What did Mom do? I asked. Lila gave a hollow laugh. She cried. Not for me. For the money. My breath caught. They started fighting, she continued. Screaming about bills, about debt, about me being too expensive. And then, her voice broke. And then Dad said something I can't unhear. I turned toward her fully. What did he say? She shook her head like she didn't want the words to exist at all. He said, if she's not going to make it anyway, why are we ripping our lives apart for nothing? My vision blurred. For a moment, I didn't even realize I'd stopped breathing. He said that. I whispered. She nodded, tears spilling again. And then Mom begged him to stop, and he told her he was done fighting for me. Like I was already gone. I covered my mouth, trying not to cry in front of her. So I left, she whispered. I grabbed a jacket, stole Mom's keys, and drove straight here. I didn't even think. I just needed someone who didn't look at me like I was a burden. She looked up at me then. Mara, please don't make me go back tonight. I didn't even think. I just pulled her into me, holding her close as her whole body trembled. You're not going anywhere, I whispered. Not tonight. Not ever, if you don't want to. For the first time since she walked in, some of the panic drained from her face. And just when I thought the night couldn't get any heavier, she pulled away, wiped her eyes, and said quietly, there's something else I haven't told you. Another secret. Another blow. I braced myself. Her eyes filled with fear, not sadness, not guilt. Fear. Mara, the surgery money? The 42,000. She paused. It's not the real number. My heart stopped. What's the real number? I whispered. She lowered her head. And when she finally said it, I felt the air disappear from the room. For a moment, all I could hear was the wind outside, thin and lonely, whistling through the edges of my balcony door. Inside the apartment, everything went still. Even Lila. She stared down at her shaking hands like she was afraid to look me in the eyes. The 42,000, she whispered, swallowing hard. That's not even close. My stomach tightened. Then what is it? Her voice came out so soft I almost didn't catch it. 113,000. I blinked. What? She squeezed her eyes shut, tears slipping down her cheeks again. I didn't want to say it. Mom said if you heard the real number, you'd never pick up the phone again. My breath came out sharp, cold. So they lied. Lila nodded. They were hoping you'd agree to the smaller number, and once you were already helping, they'd tell you the rest. Of course. Of course that was the plan. Manipulate me into the first step. Trap me in the second. Emotionally blackmail me into the third. They're drowning in debt, she admitted. Maxed cards, loans, everything. And they're terrified they'll lose the house if they take on anything else. So, they pinned all hope on you. I felt something inside me crack, but this time it wasn't rage. It was grief. Not because they lied. Not because they used her condition as leverage. Not even because they still saw me as some kind of emergency fund. But because my sister, my little sister, the girl I thought hated me, was sitting on my couch on Christmas Eve telling me she was worth less to them than the life they built on lies. I moved closer, taking her cold hands in mine. Lila, look at me. She did, those frightened eyes searching my face like she was waiting for me to get up and throw her out. I can't fix Mom and Dad, I said. I can't fix what they broke. I can't fix the way they raised us, or the way they pitted us against each other, or the way they made you believe you were a burden. Her chin trembled, tears welling again. But I can help you. Not them. Just you. She sucked in a breath. Mara, I'm not asking for the money. I know. And I meant it. Every word. But I'm also not going to let you die because of their mistakes. Her hands flew to her mouth as she started crying again, this time soundlessly, like she didn't believe she was allowed to feel anything that wasn't guilt. I pulled her into a hug, and she melted into me like a scared child finally letting go of everything she'd been holding. We stayed like that for a long time. Just breathing. Just existing. Just being sisters. For the first time in years. Eventually, when her sobs softened to quiet hiccups, she whispered, "What do we do now?" I exhaled slowly. Tomorrow morning, we're making some calls. Real calls. Actual transplant coordinators. Financial counselors. Every resource clinic in Columbus. Because we're going to do this the right way, not the manipulative, guilt-soaked way they shoved at us. She nodded into my shoulder. And Lila, I added quietly, you're staying here. You're not going back there. Not until you want to, and not until it's safe. She froze. They're going to freak out. I know, I said. Let them. A tiny laugh escaped her. Weak, exhausted, but real. They're going to blow up your phone. Well, I shrugged. Blocked numbers can't blow up anything. Her eyes widened. You'd really do that? For me. For you, I said softly. Not for them. We sat in silence again, the weight between us finally shifting. Lighter this time, not gone, but bearable. A faint glow flickered outside the window, snow reflecting off the city lights. Lila curled against my side, and I draped a blanket over her shoulders. Christmas Eve wasn't quiet anymore. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't simple. But it was honest, raw, broken, real. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel alone. Just as I thought the night was finally calming down, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. Then another buzz. Then another. 7 missed calls. Then 8. Lila looked at me, fear creeping back into her eyes. It's them. I stared at the screen, watching the calls come one after another. Rapid, frantic, relentless. And even though my heart clenched, I reached out. flipped the phone over, and let it ring. Because tonight wasn't about them anymore. It was about saving someone who'd finally asked for help honestly. It was about choosing the sister I thought I'd lost. It was about reclaiming Christmas Eve on my own terms. As for the rest, that's what Silent Revenge Lab is for. If you felt this story, if you were here for every twist, every gut punch, every heartbeat, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Silent Revenge Lab for more stories just like this one. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done on that Christmas Eve?